Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is the Council Minute for the week of July 1st. On Monday night, the Bloomington City Council approved the final site and building plans for stadium improvement projects at Kennedy and Jefferson High Schools. The Bloomington Planning Commission had approved the final site and building plan applications at their June 6th meeting, but a group of residents appealed those decisions, which brought both of the projects in front of the council this week. You likely know the background on this. For the last half century, Kennedy and Jefferson have played their home football games and other varsity sports at Bloomington Stadium. It's what we like to call a venerable old stadium at 90th and Penn, and it was the home of Lincoln High School until it closed in 1982. Bloomington Stadium has always had the benefit of being centrally located, but that means it's a couple of miles away from both Kennedy and Jefferson. And the stadium was starting to show its age in the seating areas, in the amenities, and especially on the playing surface. Both schools have made improvements over the years to athletic fields directly adjacent to their campuses, including turf fields and a limited amount of bleacher seating. But neither high school has a true on-campus stadium. So for more than a year now, the Bloomington School District has been working on plans to expand the existing on-site improvements at the schools and build full stadiums. Those stadium plans include a seating capacity of 2,500 people, lighting for the fields, and site improvements like sidewalks, entrance areas, compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and concessions buildings. The school district and stadium supporters believe that new stadium facilities will ultimately benefit the schools and the community. They believe stadiums at the schools will enhance school spirit, improve athletic programs, and provide improved educational opportunities. Now, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but stick with me for just a minute. The decision to build stadiums at Kennedy and Jefferson was made by the Bloomington School Board and school administration. The city's role was to review the building plans and development specifications, not to decide if the school board's decision is a good idea. They are their own elected body that the community chose to make those decisions. Our role in this is the same as any other development proposal. And like any other development proposal, the stadium projects require final site and building plan approval by the city. That authority generally falls to the Planning Commission. And as I mentioned, the Planning Commission gave their final approval in June. But City Code says that the Planning Commission's decisions can be appealed to the City Council. That's why the Council had a public hearing on Monday night, and that's why we spent 4 hours on the 2 agenda items regarding the stadiums. Now, when the Council considers a final site and building plan application, the Council acts in a quasi-judicial capacity, almost like a judge. There's not a lot of discretion or leeway. Instead, the Council needs to determine the facts of an application and apply those facts to the approval criteria and standards that are in the zoning ordinance. The Council can grant approval only if the facts show that all 4 of these things are true, that the proposed development is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan, in conflict with any adopted district plan for the area, in conflict with city code provisions or state law, and will not be injurious to the surrounding neighborhood or otherwise harm the public health, safety, and welfare. The first 3 questions are pretty straightforward, and the Council agreed that yes, the applications meet those criteria. But the question of injury to the surrounding neighborhood or harming public health, safety, and welfare, well, that was a point of discussion. The residents who filed the official appeal and the people who spoke at the public hearing expressed specific concerns about noise issues and the impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods like traffic, congestion, and the burden that comes with being close to a center of activity like a high school. Regarding noise, yes, there is noise associated with the high school stadium. I mentioned last month that I live 7 blocks south of the current Lincoln Field, and we hear football games on Friday nights in the fall. The school district brought in an acoustical consulting firm from Santa Monica, California, one with 75 years experience, to conduct sound studies at both sites. They used computer modeling and predictive analysis for crowd, marching band, and speaker noise to predict the noise levels at the closest household to the project site. The study concluded that project noise is predicted to be below the maximum permitted level during daytime hours, while acknowledging that crowd and marching band noise in particular is highly variable and dynamic. Despite some questions and disagreements from neighbors, ultimately the Council agreed with the recommendations of the acoustical consulting firm. There were also a lot of concerns about traffic and parking at both schools. The Jefferson plan meets parking requirements. The Kennedy plan includes provisions for additional parking should it be needed. And the conditions of approval for both plans specifically state that access circulation, and parking plans must be approved by the city engineer prior to the issuance of building permits. And finally, there were resident concerns about the number of events, outside groups renting facilities, and trash left behind after events. Those are legitimate concerns. On Monday night, we heard Bloomington School Superintendent Dr. Eric Melby state very clearly his commitment to continuing to meet with and work with neighbors and the surrounding community to ensure that these stadium projects don't create disruptions and livability issues for people in the area. And for good measure, the council added a condition that requires a trash pickup plan be in place before approval. Ultimately, the council generally agreed that stadiums at Kennedy and Jefferson would certainly change conditions around the schools and that work was needed to ensure success. But council also agreed that the stadium projects will not be injurious to the surrounding neighborhood or otherwise harm the public health, safety, and welfare. The bottom line is that the council unanimously approved the final site and building plan applications for the stadium projects. The approval is supported by substantial evidence relevant to the 4 required findings. Now, on a personal note, I firmly believe the stadiums will benefit students, the schools, and ultimately Bloomington. And I trust Dr. Melby and Bloomington Schools to work in good faith with the neighbors. I also want to say how much I appreciate both supporters and opponents and how they approach this entire process. They did so respectfully, passionately, and with an obvious understanding that while the community may sometimes disagree on an issue, we can still be a community. And finally today, congratulations to Chief Booker Hodges and the entire Bloomington Police Department on being selected as the winner of the Small City Award in the 4th year of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Police Reform and Equitable Justice Grant Program. This recognition, supported by Target, acknowledges the city's Increasing Trust Through Shared Values program. I was honored to accept the award last week at the U.S. Conference of Mayors annual conference in Kansas City. The grant program aims to identify, support, and promote police policies and practices that advance equitable treatment for all individuals in the communities they serve. The Bloomington Police Program certainly does that by emphasizing values-based recruitment and promotion. The $75,000 grant will be used to keep the good work of the program moving forward. Well done, Bloomington Police. That will do it for this week's Council Minute. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you all enjoy this extended holiday weekend, and until next time, please stay safe, Bloomington.